All right, buckle up, because today we are diving headfirst into the world of corporate sustainability in construction. And our trusty guide for this little expedition is none other than the Horizon Scanning Q3 2024 report. Yeah, this thing is packed with fascinating insights, but there's one big development that really jumped out at us: the EU Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive, or CSDDD.
That's right.
Okay, I already know what you're thinking. Another day, another acronym, but trust me, this one's a game changer. In a nutshell, the EU is basically saying, if you want to do business with us, you better be able to prove that you are not harming the environment or human rights.
Yeah, and that goes for your entire supply chain, too.
So even if you're just supplying, say, timber for a project in France, but that timber originated from a questionably sourced forest in Southeast Asia, you've got a problem. Wow, so it's this ripple effect. What does this actually look like for companies on the ground?
For starters, it means knowing where everything comes from. And I mean everything, down to the origin of the raw materials.
So no more pleading ignorance.
Right, exactly.
And this isn't some distant future problem either, is it?
Nope. This directive actually came into force in July 2024. Now, larger companies do have until 2027 to fully comply, but still it's right around the corner.
So the clock is ticking. And it seems like companies have a lot to figure out in a short amount of time. What's fascinating to me, though, is that this goes way beyond just ticking boxes on a compliance checklist, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
This directive really feels like a sign of a much bigger shift that's happening.
Oh, it absolutely is. This is a prime example of the growing global pressure for businesses to adopt ethical and sustainable practices.
And that pressure is only going to increase, right?
Exactly.
Which creates both challenges and opportunities, I imagine.
For sure, yeah. I mean, on the one hand, companies that bury their heads in the sand, they're facing some serious legal and reputational risk.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, those that embrace this shift, they stand to gain a real competitive edge because consumers, investors, even potential employees, they're all looking for businesses that align with their values these days.
It's about walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
Exactly.
It's like we're seeing a sea change right before our eyes.
Yeah.
But for companies trying to navigate these waters, it can feel pretty overwhelming. Where do you even begin to untangle something as massive as a global supply chain?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, and luckily there are resources emerging to help. In fact, this report actually highlights one in particular, the Monoro platform.
Monoro. Okay, that sounds vaguely familiar. Refresh my memory. What is that exactly?
So imagine having a sustainability expert on call 247.
Okay, I like the sound of that already.
That's essentially what Monoro is. It's this free online platform. It offers guidance, policies, best practices, all specifically geared towards decarbonizing buildings.
So like a one-stop shop for anyone who wants to build with a smaller carbon footprint.
Exactly. It's a collaborative effort spearheaded by organizations like the World Business Council for Sustainable Development.
Okay.
And various green building councils are also involved. And they recognize that, access to information, that's a major roadblock.
Yeah, absolutely.
To wider adoption of these sustainable building practices. So Monoro is designed to break down those barriers.
That's huge. Okay, so we've got this big picture EU directive shaking things up and resources like Monoro to help navigate this new playing field. But what about the legal nitty-gritty here in the UK? We're known for our contracts. So I imagine sustainability is finding its way into those too.
You are spot on. In fact, this report points to a significant update in the JCT design and build contract for 2024.
Okay.
For those who might not know, JCT contracts, those are the industry standard for construction projects here in the UK.
Right.
And the 2024 update, well, it makes sustainability clauses mandatory.
So no more treating sustainability like an optional extra. It's the real deal now.
Precisely. It's a core contractual obligation baked into the project from day one.
Which means everyone involved, from the architects to the contractors, they're all held accountable.
Absolutely. And this has major implications for risk management, cost calculations, really every single aspect of a project.
Wow. So it's like sustainability is becoming the new normal in the construction industry. But okay, we've covered the regulations, the resources. Now let's get down to brass tacks here. What about the materials themselves? This report mentioned something called HVO. What is that?
Yeah. HVO is a really good example of how even, seemingly simple substitutions can have really complex implications.
Okay. So for those of us who don't speak construction jargon, what is HVO and why should we care?
Yeah, so HVO, it stands for hydrotreated vegetable oil. It's basically a renewable diesel alternative. And it's really been gaining traction in the construction industry as a way to reduce carbon emissions.
So instead of those big, diesel guzzling machines, we've got what, bulldozers running on leftover cooking oil?
Well, not exactly, haha. It can be made from a variety of sources, actually. Used cooking oil is one of them, yeah. But also things like agricultural residues. Even, non-food crops.
Interesting.
What's really interesting about it, though, is that chemically speaking, HVO is very similar to conventional diesel.
Okay.
So it can actually be used in existing engines with, minimal modifications.
So a greener drop-in replacement? That sounds like a win-win.
It can be, yeah, but, and this is a big but, this report really emphasizes that the sustainability of HVO hinges on responsible sourcing.
Okay.
It's not enough to just swap one fuel for another.
Right.
We have to look at the whole picture. So where are the raw materials coming from? How is the HVO being produced, transported? What are the land use implications? These are all important questions.
So it's not as simple as just ticking the HVO box on your sustainability checklist.
Exactly. And you know what? This report actually highlights a new guide. It's from the Supply Chain Sustainability School. Specifically on this issue, it's called Responsible Sourcing of HVO. And it really delves into all the complexities of the HVO life cycle.
So a roadmap for making sure your HVO is the real deal, basically.
Precisely. And I think this brings us back to the central theme of our deep dive today, which is transparency and accountability across the entire supply chain. Whether we're talking about raw materials, finished products, or even the fuel that powers those construction sites, we need to be asking the hard questions.
Yeah.
And we need to demand proof that our choices are truly sustainable.
It's like this whole episode has been about peeling back the layers and realizing just how interconnected everything is.
Absolutely. And it also highlights the power of information.
Mm-hmm.
The more we know, the better equipped we are to actually make responsible choices. That's why resources like this report, like the Monoro platform and these sourcing guides, they're so valuable. They empower us to move beyond, just buzzwords and vague promises and actually demand real measurable progress.
Well said. So for anyone listening who might be feeling a little overwhelmed by all this information, remember, knowledge is power. This report is your cheat sheet. It's your crash course in navigating this complex world of sustainability and construction. And don't worry, we'll be sure to include links to all the resources mentioned in our show notes.
And don't forget, this isn't just about ticking boxes. This is about building a better future for everyone.
Couldn't agree more. Until next time, thanks for taking this deep dive with us.